This episode is provided by Thomas Allgaier and Frennis, based on the most relevant LinkedIn posts about MarTech from calendar weeks 6 and 7. Frennis is a B2B market research company helping enterprises gain the market, customer, and competitive insights needed to drive growth and success.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are unpacking the marketing technology landscape based on what we saw in calendar weeks 6 and 7 of 2026. And I have to say, looking through the curation for this week, the vibe has definitely shifted.
It really have. Normally when we open these updates, it's very, feature focused.
Yeah.
It's like, look at this shiny new generative AI tool, or here is a slightly better way to sequence your outbound emails.
Right, very tactical.
Exactly. But this week, the conversation on LinkedIn just felt heavier. It felt like the industry is having a bit of an existential crisis.
That is a really great way to put it. We aren't just seeing people ask what software they should buy anymore. We are seeing marketing leaders asking, why did we build our infrastructure this way in the first place? It's a huge move away from just shopping for tools and toward a fundamental rethinking of the whole architecture.
Right. It's the difference between, deciding how to decorate a house and actually checking the foundation to make sure the house isn't sinking into the mud.
Exactly.
So we have 3 big themes to cover today to really make sense of this shift. First, we're going to look at the rise of vibe coding and how ops teams are actually replacing expensive enterprise software with tools they just build themselves.
Then we'll tackle the great stack cleanup, why companies are ripping out these massive black box platforms in favor of their own data warehouses, really trying to cut through the tech clutter.
And finally, we will discuss the human element. Because, you can have the best AI architecture in the world, but if your sales and marketing teams are at war, or if you've hired the wrong type of RevOps leader,
none of that technology matters.
Nothing matters.
It's going to be a dense one, but I think it's exactly what we need to dive into right now.
Absolutely. So let's start with the disruption part. There was one story that absolutely dominated the feed this week. It's a case study shared by Barry Latimer, and frankly, it's the kind of story that probably keeps SaaS CEOs awake at night.
Oh, the $460,000 story.
That's the one. Walk us through it.
So Barry shared a breakdown of a project led by his team lead, Jennifer Bright, and the context is pretty standard for a large enterprise. Their client was paying roughly $465,000 a year for a legacy SaaS platform.
Wow.
Yeah. And this platform's main job was campaign execution. So handling audience logic, splitting volumes for A/B testing, segmentation, just standard marketing ops stuff.
Let's just pause on that number for a second. Nearly $500,000 a year. That is a massive line item. And let's be honest, for campaign execution software, a lot of that cost is often just legacy bloat.
Exactly. And that is exactly what Jennifer thought. She looked at the price tag, looked at the capability, and effectively said, I can build something better than this.
Which is wild, because usually when a marketer says, I can build it myself, everyone in IT just rolls their eyes.
Right.
It usually ends with some massive spreadsheet that crashes the server, or a shadow IT project that gets shut down in 3 months.
Well, the classic build versus buy debate usually ends with buy, right? Because building is too hard, it's too expensive to maintain, and you aren't a software company.
Right.
But this is 2026. Jennifer isn't a software engineer by trade. She's a campaign operations leader. But she used Claude, the AI model, to architect and build a custom solution from scratch. She didn't just write a script. She built a tool that runs natively in the client's Snowflake environment.
Okay, I want to clarify that for you if you're listening and maybe aren't deep in the data weeds. When we say it runs natively in Snowflake, what does that actually mean for the business compared to the old way?
It's a massive difference.
Yeah.
In the old model, the SaaS model, you usually have to copy your data out of your warehouse.
Right.
Send it to the vendor's cloud, let them process it, and then maybe sync it back later.
Which is a nightmare.
It costs money, it creates huge security risks, and it is slow. Jennifer's tool sits inside the warehouse. The data never leaves. It handles the metadata, it does the audience splitting, and this is the kicker. It generates production-ready SQL with a single click.
So she effectively built her own user interface that translates, I want to target people in New York who bought X into the complex database code that actually finds those people.
Yes. And the result? They saved the client $460,000 annually.
Unbelievable.
They canceled the SaaS contract entirely. And according to Barry, the new solution is actually faster and aligns way better with the client's specific workflow because it was custom built for them.
This feels like a major tipping point. We've been hearing about the democratization of code for years, but this is a high-stakes, real-world example. If an ops leader can use an LM to build a replacement for a $500,000 platform in a few weeks.
So suddenly build becomes the cheaper, faster option.
Exactly. And this connects directly to a concept John Miller was discussing this week. He calls it vibe coding.
Yeah, I saw that term floating around.
It sounds like something Gen Z would say on TikTok, but the definition is actually really technical.
It is catchy. So vibe coding essentially means writing code through natural language prompts. You describe the vibe or the function of what you want, and the AI handles the syntax and the structure. John's argument is that the MarTech landscape is splitting. On one side, you have the workflow layer, the user interfaces we click around in. He thinks vibe coding will eat that entire market.
Because why pay Salesforce or HubSpot for a generic interface when I can just vibe code a form that looks exactly how my team naturally works?
Exactly. Domain experts, the people who actually know the problem, can now just build the solution. However, Miller adds a crucial nuance here, and I think this is important so we don't just assume all SaaS is dead tomorrow.
Right.
He argues that enterprises will still pay for what he calls systems of control.
Okay, let's unpack that. If we are vibe coding our own apps, what is left to buy?
Safety, governance, trust. You can vibe code a user interface, but you cannot vibe code compliance with GDPR or privacy laws. You can't vibe code email deliverability reputation.
That makes total sense. Like, I might trust my custom app to sort my contacts, but I don't want to be personally responsible for ensuring I'm not breaking international privacy laws. I will gladly pay a vendor to take that liability.
Precisely. You build the fun stuff, the workflows, the creative tools, the integration glue, and you buy the insurance, the identity resolution, the consent management, the heavy infrastructure.
And we're seeing this build mentality trickle down to smaller tasks, too. It's not just replacing massive enterprise platforms. Alexander Lisek shared some really practical examples of using low-code tools like N8Me to do exactly this.
Yes, Lisek is a great example of what I'd call the modern marketing engineer. He isn't building a replacement for Salesforce, but he is building the automation glue that holds his day-to-day together. Like, for example, he automated the creative handoff process.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, instead of downloading images from Trello and manually uploading them to Meta Ads Manager, which is just mind-numbing work.
Oh, the worst.
He built a script that just does it automatically.
Which sounds small, but if you have ever been the person dragging and dropping JPEGs for 3 hours on a Friday afternoon, you know that is a lifesaver.
And it removes human error entirely. He also built an automated alerting system for Google Ads budgets. If a campaign is overspending, or conversely, if it's performing incredibly well, the system alerts the team in Slack and can even auto-scale the budget by 30%.
That's moving from reporting to acting. Usually you get a report on Monday saying, oops, we overspent on Saturday. This catches it in real time.
He even has a setup for SEO content. One AI model writes a draft, and a second, separate AI model acts as the editor, reviewing it against a style guide before a human ever even looks at it.
It's like having a digital intern checking the work of your digital writer. This all points to a future where we aren't just logging into software to do work anymore. We are orchestrating agents to do it for us. Which brings us perfectly to Matthew Sweezy's post about the agentic era.
Sweezy is taking a 30,000-foot view here. His argument is that for 20 years, we've designed customer journeys. We built websites and landing pages, assuming a human being with human eyes and a mouse would navigate them.
And now?
Now, it might not be a human visiting your site at all. It might be their AI agent. If I tell my AI, hey, find me a CRM software that costs under $50 a month and integrates with X, that AI is going to go out and scan the web.
So if your website is full of fluffy marketing speak and giant pop-ups, the AI might just skip it.
Worse, it might not be able to read it at all. Sweezy says brands need to become callable infrastructure. You need to be a resource that an AI can ping to get pricing, availability, and specs via an API. If your brand isn't callable, you effectively disappear from the consideration set.
That is a terrifying thought for brand marketers. We've
Yeah.
spent so much time optimizing for eyeballs, and now we have to optimize for algorithms.
It all comes back to data structure. Whether you are Jennifer Bright building a tool on Snowflake or Matthew Sweezy preparing for AI agents, the conclusion is exactly the same. The pretty user interface matters less. The underlying data architecture matters more.
Which is the perfect segue to our second theme today. Because if the data architecture is the new gold, we have a lot of cleaning up to do. Because right now, let's be honest, most stacks are a complete mess.
Mess is a very polite word for it. The term Dr. Ashish Bajaj used in a discussion with Sarb Agrawal was tech clutter.
Tech clutter is a great phrase. We all have that drawer in our kitchen full of random cables and dead batteries. That's what most MarTech stacks look like today.
Dr. Bajaj didn't mince words. He said, fancy tools don't fix bad marketing. There's this tendency to think, oh, our conversion rates are down. Let's buy an optimization tool. Our leads are weak. Let's buy a data enrichment tool.
It's retail therapy for CMOs.
Exactly. But Bajaj argues that digital success is about connected systems. If your systems aren't talking to each other, if the data enrichment tool isn't syncing cleanly with the CRM, you are just generating noise. You aren't generating revenue.
We saw a radical example of someone decluttering this week, too. Lars Petter Blucom shared a story about ripping out a customer data platform, a CDP.
This was such a bold move. For context, a CDP is supposed to be the brain of your marketing. It collects data from everywhere, web, email, sales, and creates a unified profile of your customer.
In theory. In practice, they can be incredibly complex and very expensive to implement.
Right. And Lars called their CDP a black box. They were feeding data into it, but they didn't fully control the logic of what happened inside, and getting the data back out was a massive pain. So they just replaced it. They moved to a fully owned architecture on BigQuery.
And the timeline on this was shocking.
2 days.
2 days. I have seen CDP implementations take 2 entire years.
It really speaks to the power of the modern cloud data warehouse. By moving to BigQuery, they eliminated their technical debt. They aren't reliant on a vendor's proprietary roadmap anymore. If they want to change how they calculate customer lifetime value, they just change the SQL query. They don't have to file a support ticket and wait 3 weeks.
This aligns so well with the small core model that Jeff Smith was discussing.
Yes. Smith's view is that we need to stop buying a tool for every single edge case. He suggests a small core of powerful orchestrated platforms like your CRM and your data warehouse, and then using those vibe-coded apps or specialist agents to handle the specific edge case problems.
So instead of a stack of 50 disconnected tools, you have 2 or 3 massive pillars and then a bunch of lightweight scripts that just do specific jobs.
Exactly. And this shift is forcing the CDP vendors to actually change their approach. Shashi Bellam-Konda had a great analysis on this. He noted that warehouse native is becoming the mainstream for CDPs now.
Meaning, instead of the CDP saying, send me all your data, the CDP says, I'll just come to where your data already lives.
Correct. The trend is moving away from storing a copy of your data in a vendor's cloud. The data stays in your Snowflake or BigQuery. The CDP just sits on top to provide the identity resolution and the activation layer.
Shashi also touched on AI in this context, didn't he?
He did, and it's a harsh reality check. He said that simply claiming your platform is AI-powered is no longer a differentiator. It is table stakes. Everyone has AI. The real differentiator in 2026 is governance and trusted customer context. Can I trust the data? Is it compliant? That is what people will actually pay for.
It's funny, we keep coming back to trust and governance as the only things left that are worth paying a premium for. Everything else is just becoming a commodity.
Speaking of paying, we should definitely mention Moritz Nicholas Wolf here. He's pushing what he calls the $0 migration movement.
This is a push for transparent pricing, right?
It is. It's a reaction to the hidden costs that drive everyone crazy. User caps, data storage fees, implementation costs. Moritz is arguing that these hidden fees are exactly what drive people to build their own stacks in the first place. If vendors want to survive, they need to remove the friction of switching.
It's all connected. If you make it too hard or too expensive to use your software, Jennifer Bright is just going to build a replacement with Claude.
Precisely. But here's the thing. You can have the leanest, most beautifully vibe-coded stack in the world running on a pristine data warehouse, and it will still fail if your team is dysfunctional.
Which brings us to our final theme today, organization and strategy. Because you cannot fix a people problem with a software patch.
This is the hardest part. Natalie Furness broke this down beautifully regarding RevOps, revenue operations.
RevOps is one of those buzzwords that everyone uses, but I feel like every company defines it differently.
That is exactly the problem. Natalie argues that companies fail because they don't understand the ladder of RevOps roles. They think RevOps is just one homogeneous thing. But she outlines very clear levels. Level 1 is an analyst. This is someone who builds reports and configures fields on one specific platform.
So the tactical fixer.
Right. But level 3 is a systems manager or architect. This is someone who translates business requirements into a system design across platforms. And level 5 is a director, someone with strategic board-level alignment who talks about revenue, not API keys.
And I'm guessing companies are hiring level 1s and expecting level 5 results.
Or the exact reverse. They hire a high-level director and then get incredibly frustrated when that person isn't in HubSpot fixing a broken form field. You have to match the talent to the maturity of your organization.
Speaking of broken relationships, we have to talk about the eternal war between marketing and sales. Drew Neisser posted about the blame game.
Oh, we all know this game. Revenue misses the target. The CMO says, hey, I sent you 10,000 leads. Sales just can't close. And sales says, those leads were garbage. I need Glengarry leads.
It's a tale as old as time. So how do we actually break the cycle?
Neisser says CMOs need to stop defending lead volume. Literally, stop talking about how many leads you got. No one cares if you generated 10,000 leads if $0 closed. Instead, start diagnosing conversion. He suggests a revenue reset sprint.
What does that actually look like practically?
It's a weekly standing meeting with sales leadership. But the agenda isn't, here are my numbers. The agenda is, let's look at why these specific deals didn't close. You co-own the failure. You work together to fix the messaging and the targeting.
I love that phrase, stop defending, start diagnosing. It changes the dynamic from adversaries to allies. Wouter Dieleman had a very specific tactical way to help with this in HubSpot, didn't he?
Yes, and this is something you can go implement tomorrow. Wouter says stop creating deals the second someone fills out a form.
But wait, marketing wants to show a massive pipeline to the CEO?
That is the trap. If you create a deal immediately, your forecasting accuracy just tanks because most of those people aren't ready to buy yet. Your pipeline looks huge, but your close rate looks terrible.
So what's the alternative?
Wouter suggests using a lead pipeline or a status field first. You move them from new to connected to qualified. You only create a formal deal record when the product fit is confirmed and the dollar amount is actually clear.
That keeps the sales forecast completely clean? It seems like a small database change, but it has a huge impact on trust. If the pipeline only contains real deals, sales will actually pay attention to it.
Trust is the key word there. Joel Harrison and Robert Nicholson had a fascinating discussion about integration failures. They pointed out that when integrations break, it is rarely because the API failed. The technology usually works fine.
So why do they fail?
They fail because of a lack of trust. If sales doesn't trust the data, marketing is sending over. If they think it's inaccurate or duplicated, they stop using the system. They go back to their own spreadsheets. The integration is effectively broken, even if the wires are technically connected.
That's a profound point. The break isn't in the software code, it's in the social contract between the teams.
Exactly. And this leads us to a really powerful closing thought from Bill Habib. He poses a huge question about the future of competition.
Let's hear it.
He asks, if AI abstracts away the software interface, if we're all just typing prompts into a box to get our work done, then the tool itself is no longer the competitive advantage. If I have Salesforce and you have Salesforce and we both have AI agents running them, who wins?
Right. It completely levels the playing field. If the tool is just a commodity box that AI runs, my tech stack isn't my advantage anymore.
Bill says the new advantage is contextual precision. It's not about who has the better tool. It's about who has the deeper understanding of their customer to distinguish a real buying signal from the noise using those exact same tools.
Can you give me an example of that?
Sure. Two companies might see the exact same signal. Company X visited the pricing page. The company that loses will just spam them with automated emails. The company that wins will have the context to know why they visited, who the decision maker actually is, and what specific problem they're trying to solve. They will use the AI to execute a specific, relevant strategy.
So the technology becomes a commodity, and the human insight, the context, becomes the moat.
The moat is moving. It's no longer the code, it's the context.
That is a powerful place to land. It feels like we've come full circle today. We started with Jennifer Bray using AI to build her own tools, which commoditizes the software. And we're ending with the realization that when software is a commodity, the only thing that actually matters is how well you know your strategy and your customer.
It's a major call to action for 2026. Stop obsessing over which tool to buy. Start obsessing over your data structure, your team alignment, and your customer context.
Which really leaves you with something huge to think about. If AI agents are the ones navigating the web, and AI is the one writing the code, and our MarTech stacks are just these invisible layers of agents talking to each other, maybe the ultimate B2B advantage moving forward isn't digital at all. If human context is the only true moat left, maybe the most radical marketing strategy for the next few years is just literal face-to-face human connection, because that might be the only thing an AI can't scrape or vibe code.
I love that. Back to basics, but powered by the best tech we've ever had.
If you enjoyed this episode, new episodes drop every 2 weeks. Also, check out our other editions on account-based marketing, field marketing, channel marketing, AI and B2B marketing, go-to-market, and social selling. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and make sure to subscribe so you never miss an update.